All right, everybody, welcome back. It's Lex, and today we got another review for you guys. We're going to be talking about Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer released a couple weeks ago, and I finally got the chance to go watch this masterpiece. What an amazing experience to really go see something like this in theaters. If you are someone who's waiting for it to come in streaming platforms, you should really do yourself the service and go out and go watch in the theaters. Or if you really are going to wait for the streaming services, make sure you have the audio quality up, because man, this movie is fantastic. So we follow the story of an American scientist named J. Robert Oppenheimer and his role in the development of the atomic bomb. Cillian Murphy does a fantastic job of playing this role, portraying him to a T. Cillian does take up most of the screen time this time around, which is really fantastic. His performance in here is something that's really, it has a lot of depth into it, a lot of emotional. It brought a little bit more light into who he was as a human being and kind of his process of going into developing the atomic bomb with different physicists that he had as well. His communication with them leading up to the Trinity test and having the whole thing happening around the Manhattan Project. Like, it was really fantastic how they really developed the story around him. Christopher Nolan definitely shows a masterclass into his directing here, because you can really tell how much time and effort was put into it, especially even the score as well. The music is a fantastic pieces that put the story all together, and it's fantastic. It kind of glues it all together as well. It leads you emotionally and also makes you feel such a way, because the score itself is even as in depth as the movie itself. So it's really awesome to be checking out something like this, and because I haven't seen something like this that has been so impactful to me and has put me through such an emotional roller coaster while I was watching it in theaters. And the fact that it took me a couple of maybe a week or so to go actually watch it. I didn't watch it on release time, and for it to be delivering so much of this fantastic performances when it comes to Cillian Murphy or Robert Downey Jr. or Matt Damon or any of these guys. Everybody was in this. The ensemble was almost an Avengers like a thing, where you get a bunch of people who are from different realms of acting but all come together to tell this beautiful story and this amazing time with this one. Cillian Murphy does portray Oppenheimer in such a way where he's almost stressed but also intriguing as a person. He isn't a boring character, just a boring physicist. He's someone who has these in-depth things about himself. When he goes through the anxiety of even developing, or when he goes through his own battles for relationships and things like that. Like, wow, what an amazing guy. I wonder if he was just as amazing in real life as he was portrayed in the movie. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that such a person could develop something that could be so monumental to the entire history of human beings. And the fact that we were able to see that process going on at that moment was fantastic. And for Christopher Nolan to really develop it into the screen time and really show us within the 3 hour viewing time of this movie and how this whole story kind of portrayed itself is amazing. And it's really a fantastic way of showing the capabilities of cinema and showing the abilities of people who work together in a story, and writers and actors that all come together and are just doing stellar performances. From the fact of Matt Damon even himself, and the relationship between Oppenheimer and Matt Damon's character, the way they kind of had that chemistry with each other was fantastic. Everybody was on their A game on this one. Cillian Murphy was definitely the S tier. He was definitely the one carrying a lot of it. Not to say that the other actors weren't. I'm just saying, as far as you can see who is definitely number one here is Cillian Murphy. I have to say that as far as how he carried a lot of emotions and tension throughout the entire movie. The fact that when he was having panic attacks, the way he saw the fear, the face, the intrigueness of him, he's such a fantastic actor. Even his body, it morphs into him. The way his demeanor is, the way he kind of just fell into this character, and you can really tell that he was attached to him like this. It was so fantastic. And the way he kind of had conversations with different actors, like I was saying before, Matt Damon and him were kind of sparring with each other, almost going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and the dynamic between the characters in the movie, it almost felt like a relationship that was I'm your friend, but at the same time my country is more important, and but you could really tell that the relationship between Matt Damon and Oppenheimer were really close. And the fact that Matt Damon's character couldn't get so close, but you could tell there was this level of like caring for him, and having this like almost like appreciation of him, this respect factor that they both have for one another. I think you can tell that even though they kind of butt heads through the entire thing, I think that relationship was really good to see throughout. And it just kind of hit me a lot throughout the movie, because it felt interesting how in the movie Oppenheimer is depicted as like this charming, very intelligent guy, and here comes this other guy who's just like America, 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 and the fact that they can come together to kind of figure out a mission and figure out how to get the atomic bomb going is crazy, man. I think a lot of the movie's pacing was really good. I think that this movie is definitely dialogue heavy for those who are looking for just an intense action or intense like things. No, these are things that you're gonna have to kind of digest slowly, but I promise you this is super rewarding with the entire writing of it. It's fantastic, keeps you engaged. With the score even happening when the score comes on right when everything's getting very tense, or when everything's like happening, like the score almost kind of leads you in a way. The score almost is like there to kind of, hey, this is an intense moment, and we're gonna use this moment to kind of pick up the pace with the music and really show you that, hey, it's time to listen. It's time to keep your ear to the screen and really make sure you're listening to each piece of dialogue here, because it's going to be super important to the entire story here. And a lot of this was like such setup. It was so much setup and so much like leading up to the Trinity test. To it's like, oh my god, I cannot explain. Like, this is something that you guys have to go watch to yourself. Leading up to the Trinity test was so fantastic, just showing the kind of course of how Oppenheimer was going from, the student who was just kind of like apparently putting poison in his professor's apple, to becoming like this, person who, moves the entire world, or becomes death himself, as he says in the movie. You could really see how much strain that he had in his personal relationships with women, the way he was like, so invested into the project that his family would even, suffer from that going to woman to woman, or flirting with with other women, or just having a sexual desire with this certain woman throughout the story that you guys will get to see in the movie. Like, you really get to see how much like he was also in love with creating his creation, also passionate and focused on his job and what he has to do for his country. That you get to see a lot of like what happened in the background of his own relationship. There's a scene in the movie where he walks up into his house and his baby is crying and crying and crying, and his wife then is just sitting in the table drinking and crying, saying, "I've been watching that baby all day." You get to see how much tension and how much like effort has to be put into something like that, and how much sacrifice. Even one of the characters, once he decides to drop off his his daughter or son to one of their coworkers or friends, is like he's like, "Man, I know we're shitty, I know we're crappy, but we gotta do this. Can you just watch him for a while?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course." And he even says like, this is the sacrifice you gotta make for our country. Like, even people around him, you get to see how much they glorify him, how much they appreciate him, and how much they are dedicated to the fact that they need to create and hurry up and create this atomic bomb before any other country does that at the time. Like, it's amazing how much. I wonder how surreal it was and how much tension it was at that time, where everybody's racing to the fact of creating this bomb in order to take control of the entire world here, because these events are happening in between the World War II and, also during the Pearl Harbor times. Like, you get to see like how much of that was, how much of his efforts into the science and how much efforts into him creating the weapon was a very pivotal moment for this country, and how that kind of shaped the entire world after that. Like, this guy is so important to the United States history. It's amazing that people can go see this and digest it in this way, where it's not just it's for people to go, like, you wouldn't even know who Oppenheimer is, especially now at this age. Like, you wouldn't even know that, but the fact that you can go to a movie now and go see this like almost historical piece of a human being, and how much he actually was involved in like us today, and having what we have today, and the effects and the aftermath. It's almost like the shockwave after the explosion, right? It wasn't just an explosion that was in a physical form, but it almost sent shockwaves to it almost sent like historical shockwaves to now, and we're still feeling that to this day. So yeah, definitely, it's an interesting story. I would love to read his book one day, or maybe go through some sort of biography that he has. Because man, I'm sure that there's still a lot that needs to be uncovered here. But what a fantastic job that Christopher Nolan did to really depict this character and really get people engaged into seeing this movie. And also, one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is when they're finally doing the test project, the Trinity test, because we finally had led up to this moment, and everybody's about to like see if we're gonna like explode, if it's actually gonna be able to work, because everything's riding on this. Like I said, this is a very pivotal moment in history. So if this doesn't work, then we're all screwed. But the fact that the tension that was building up in that scene, the sequence of all that, the score, the people, the acting has to be one of the best sequences I ever seen in a movie. The fact that they were able to get to a position where the whole audience is feeling this anxiety of like, is this gonna work? Is this gonna happen? To even seeing the bomb. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, but when you look at the bomb, it almost feels like terrifying to look at it. It's not even a horror movie, but just looking at the fact and thinking that this is like something that can destroy us, something to kill us, is even an anxious thing. Even though if it's a bunch of piece of metal and scraps and a nuclear weapon or whatever it is, like the fact that we're looking at it, staring at it, is almost a fear in itself. And I really got that, man. The sequence when they drop the bomb and test it for the first time, the music is kind of hitting a crescendo all the way up, and it's gonna hit the peak of itself, and then all of a sudden the bomb goes off and no sound, completely quiet. Wow. Well, I couldn't tell you how I felt in that moment. I couldn't tell you how I felt in that. The level of anxiety up into that moment was I don't know how they even did that. I don't know how. That is the peak of what engagement is. That I feel like that is the peak of what it is to keep people in the audience surprised, because that really surprised me in that moment. Yeah, man. What a great sequence there it was, for sure. I think one of the key moments that if you picked up during the dialogue was like, yeah, we don't know if we're going to set fire to the atmosphere. We don't know if we're about to blow up the world. We don't know any of that. There's a chance that can happen. And it's like, dude, like, oh my God, bro. Like, could you imagine if they just freaking blew up everything? Like, it almost felt like how disconnected they were from the reality of what was going on. It was so surreal and unbelievable. You kind of had to just grin about it, kind of had to laugh about it, almost dismissive of it. But in reality, it's like they didn't even know if this could destroy all of it, right? Like, I think that was one of the important things. If you're listening and you're really digesting each piece of line and each piece of dialogue that's going on, you really get to pick up little hints like that. You really get to feel the tension and all that, because it's super important to really hear everything that's going on. Like, each sentence matters in this movie, and the fact you can't really miss anything. This is why this movie is fantastic, and I just wanted to keep myself engaged because I was interested in all the characters. Like, they all had depth into him, and the way they kind of filmed everything, the way they kind of structured this entire story was really, really, really fantastic and great, and it's something that I might go watch again. Like, even Strauss, Robert Downey's character, like even him, like you get to see his kind of like plot twist in the end. Spoiler alert! Like, you get to see a plot. Well, I mean, is it really a spoiler? This is kind of history, but like, you get to see the plot twist of in the end of himself and his own demise, because he was like plotting against Oppenheimer. He felt revengeful. He hated him almost in a way that he felt like he needed to get back to him, but also kind of being self-soaring and absorbed within himself. Like, it was crazy to see even him going through that, because that's kind of the B story that's going on through this movie, and the black and white nature of the screen, where his scenes were black and white and Cillian Murphy's scenes were like with color. So seeing the contrast between them, no pun intended, was an interesting thing. Where, man, this guy really was trying to get to him, but so unimportant that he was, to where he even like messed himself over and messed up Oppenheimer. In a way, he kind of was able to get a little bit, but wasn't able to do it fully. And it just goes to show what type of character he is, a much of a snake that he was. And wow, man, yeah, Robert Downey's character was so. Everybody did an amazing job, guys. Everybody did an amazing job. I cannot say this enough. The acting was fantastic, was top notch. This was a great movie. This is a masterclass of what a movie is supposed to be. This is what years and years into the making of what it is, and you could tell how much effort and dedication they put into this movie. There's a lot more things that I would love to say, but this video can go on forever and forever, so I'll just say this, man. Oppenheimer is a masterclass of what cinema could be. This movie is fantastic. It's a masterpiece. You gotta go watch it. If you can, go watch in theaters. If you can, go watch in IMAX. But if you really can't, it's fine. It's gonna be good. I'm gonna watch in my home as well. So you guys need to check this out. This movie is definitely a 10 out of 10. Great job. I gotta applaud Christopher Nolan for the work he's done on this one. Yeah, man. I think that's about it. I hope you guys have a great day. If you watched the movie, let me know in the comments down below what you thought about it. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you smash that sub button, because with your help, we can reach our goal. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.